When was the last time your body said no to you? How do our bodies communicate with us to give us messages that things aren't quite right? This happened to me a couple of years ago. Oftentimes we have small little symptoms, little signals that things aren't quite right. But a couple of years ago, I had an experience that was different than all the other times. So what happened was, I'm a fairly busy person as an academic, and I have lots of things to do, preparing for classes, teaching, marking, presenting, doing all of these things. And so I had a little bout of indigestion, which I promptly ignored and thought it would just go away. But then one night when I was at home, I had a fire raging in my chest, right here in the center. And as a nursing professor, it suddenly dawned on me, what if I'm having a heart attack? So my husband wasn't home, and so I called my daughter and my son-in-law to come and take me to the emergency room. And after a long night of blood tests and x-rays and ECGs, and the odd little note to my daughter about my criticisms of the nursing care I was being received, much to her horror, I was sent home with a diagnosis of gastric reflux disease. So I took a couple of days off work, and I went to see my family doctor, and I slunk over to see my acupuncturist, who gave me a very firm talking to about how this way I'm living my life is really not in my best interest. So the title of my talk is actually borrowed from a book, and it's written by Gabor Mate, and it was called When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress. So what Gabor Mate talks about in his book is the idea of the mind-body connection and its relationship to the development of disease and illness in humans. And my episode of indigestion is a perfect example of that. And so what amazes me is the human body. As a nurse, I've always been fascinated by the resilience of the human body. Think about your beating hearts. I think mine's probably beating a lot harder than yours right now. But our breathing, our digestive system, our immune systems, all of these things function inside of us without any conscious awareness at all. And so in thinking about that, and thinking about how the body communicates to us and Gabor Mate's work, I started thinking about balance and this idea that our bodies are always in a state of trying to achieve balance, or homeostasis, as we call it in healthcare. Balance is also reflected in ancient Chinese philosophy, and it's encompassed in traditional Chinese medicine. So yin and yang are the energy forces. They are opposite but complementary, and they encompass all that's in nature. So as a consequence of that, trying to achieve balance is something that everything and everyone is always trying to do. We are in a constant state of change. There is actually no such thing as homeostasis, because we are always adapting to the assaults we put on our bodies. So if we were to think about this and think about ourselves as microcosms, as reflections of Mother Earth, of the planet, she too cries out for help, just like we do. So in thinking about that, I'm always aware of the fact that, there are many things that Mother Earth cries about. And so some of those are things like the torrential rainstorms we experience, hurricanes, mudslides, wildfires, all these things that are happening in the earth, all signals of climate change. So Mother Earth is calling out to us and asking us for help. So you can see from this image, I love this, with the arms reaching out from the earth, and this idea that she is calling and saying, what are you doing? So when I think about human beings, it's just so interesting about them. Here they are, the most evolved species on the planet, and still we pursue this relentless idea of unparalleled growth, that we think we can just keep going and going. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking to myself, wait a minute. Mother Earth can take care of herself. She is a highly more evolved and complex thing than we are. And so in actual fact, it's not the planet we need to worry about. It's actually us. We are the ones that need to be worried because we're the ones that are in the state that we're in now, that we are actually destroying the planet. And Mother Earth will take care of us in some way to correct the balance. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't even really want to think about that. But the idea is it's true and it's there. So I don't want to get depressed or morbid about this, but the idea is that I sometimes get really concerned about how youth is becoming very overwhelmed with the idea that perhaps we've gone past the point of no return. So I teach a course in sustainability here at MacEwan, and this is one of the authors we read. His name is Chris Turner, and he wrote a book called The Geography of Hope, a tour of the world we need. And he has a prologue, and in that prologue he says, what would it be like to be part of the greatest project in the history of human civilization, to be part of the generation that beat climate change? And I thought, oh yeah, there's more inside of that prologue. But I go back and read it occasionally when I feel discouraged, because he succeeds. He gives me hope. I'm a grandmother and I watch my grandchildren, and there's so much in this world to enjoy. So I want to leave you with some ideas about ways that we can move forward in higher education, because that's where we're housed right now. And one of them is to engage in the humanities. We need to restore balance between the science and technology and humanities. So I think about reading deeply, sharing your ideas with others, listening to music that stirs the soul, viewing films or theater that raise awareness and wake you up and wake up your emotions. So the humanities are actually a window into how beautiful the world is and the things that we can appreciate about it. And it's also the key to living virtuously. A second thing I want you to think about is enveloping yourself in nature. Nature has so much to teach us. So being outside, looking around and noticing things, taking out the earbuds, and actually listening to the birds and the things around you when you're outside. I've started experimenting with this a little bit, and it's phenomenal what I actually see and hear when I'm really paying attention. So Mother Nature can teach us so many things. The other part of this is that our indigenous knowledge keepers, they have so much wisdom to give us about living in harmony with nature. Inspiring growth is so important, not only in ourselves, but in others. So when I think about this, I think about noticing the beauty in people and thinking about the fact that it's important to tell them that they're beautiful. And I also think about inspiring growth by nurturing children. Children are our future. And they are such amazing human beings. So watching them, noticing, and of course, grow some beets. And finally, and most importantly, we need to shift our gaze inward to see out. So in doing that, we raise consciousness, because consciousness is just nature living through us. So praise more, judge less, forgive yourselves and each other. Let go of the things that are not serving you well anymore. These are all ways that we can transform ourselves, and in doing so, transform the planet. You know, my mother always told me that I should listen when I was growing up. So, perk up your ears. Mother Nature's calling. There's work to be done. Thank you.